It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome into another Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Saunders. Alan, how are you doing, and how is your bracket doing? Two separate questions.
I'm doing a lot better than my bracket is. Just say that. It's not good.
I started out 0 for 1. Gotta be honest, have not watched a ton of college basketball in general this year as opposed to most years. Certainly did not watch a lot of that Creighton team, and the only time that I watched Louisville was them just absolutely destroying Pitt. So I kind of had a little bit of that in my head when making that selection. So I went with Louisville. So not a great start right off the bat. However, my what I thought was a very obvious 12/5 McNeese State over Clemson looks like it's going to happen. So I'm feeling good about that.
Yeah, not getting either of those. So yeah, we're not doing well over here. Let's just say that.
Okay, but you're doing good. Just not your bracket at this point in time. We'll see.
Look at all the Final Four teams.
Yeah, well, there you go. The reason that I remember last year when we were recording the podcast and obviously the early slated games and stuff were going on, you were looking good to start off the day last year. I went back to see.
I was in good shape, and I did not finish all that well. I think I was like 20th or something like that last year.
Okay, so that's what's gonna. It's the complete opposite of what happened last year. That's the vibe I'm getting. So things are going to turn around for you. A couple of news things to hit on, Alan, before we dive into some questions from the YouTube community. A couple guys being brought back from last year's roster, a couple core special teamers, James Pierre, Jeremiah Moon. What do we make of these? Now the Steelers have brought back both their gunners, James Pierre and Ben Skoranek, both back on the roster. And does Jeremiah Moon at all ease what you were talking about yesterday with a box that needed checked in terms of a fourth edge rusher?
Yeah, I think really, yes. I mean, he's a good special teamer. I think he has promise. He's a young guy. This will be his third season, but really didn't play very much in that first year with Baltimore. So, someone I think they like. I was a little surprised they didn't tender him a contract, and then they ended up re-signing him anyway. I would love to know what the thought process was there, but it's so in the weeds that no one will actually care, even if I figure it out. But I'd be interested to know why that happened the way it did. But and then Pierre, man, you saw when he came back, when they brought him back, was that week 3. It was just an instant settling down of what had been an ongoing mess in terms of the punt gunner situation throughout preseason and the training camp and the early part of the season. I think he pretty clearly proved his value last year. We'll see if he's going to have to. Both of these guys are going to have to fight to make the team, but the fact that they're so good on special teams definitely gives them a leg up over the average rookie.
And I know what my answer to this would be, but when you make a signing like this, that is, obviously checking the box special teams wise, but also can provide some depth on the roster at their respective positions, cornerback and along the edge, does it change draft plans at all when you do something like that, or no?
No, I wouldn't think so. I mean, maybe at corner a little bit, just because now I think if you look at outside, they already had Porter and Slay, then they had Trice, now they have Pierre, very deep at outside corner compared to inside where it's Eccles and Beanie, probably not as, not feeling the same way. So I think it probably makes slot corner a little more likely than outside. At edge, not at all. They will find a fifth edge rusher somewhere to provide competition for Moon, and whether that's in the draft or free agency or whatever. And I think edge is kind of like a sneaky draft spot for them. I could see them picking one with a late round pick just because they love them and they always want more.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think, that's kind of edge obviously fits for me along with if you have a really good player that's there, take them. It fits along just the mold of both sides of the trenches to me, offensively or defensively. If the value's there, you can never have enough of them. So absolutely. But I think for me, the way that I'm looking at this is it gives you the ability to not have to take one if the value isn't there, because you don't need it necessarily in 2025. But if a player is there, I don't think it prevents you from taking the best player on the board if they're at that spot either.
Yeah. Yeah, or you just get into a weird spot, even early. Like, I don't think it has to be like a 7th round pick. Like, even early, if you get into a weird spot and edge or safety or corner, or even like if any of those turn out to be like best player available in the 3rd or 4th round, like I don't think the moves that they've made over this second week of free agency will stop them from doing anything at any of those positions.
So this is kind of going back to, we talked yesterday about safety because Manwari out of South Carolina, and Jared Alexander obviously talking to him and going through drills and stuff with him. It's interesting. Somebody was texting me today about like, hey, don't be surprised if the Steelers take a safety earlier than you would have thought of. And I was like, it's funny because we were just having this conversation yesterday in the Steelers afternoon drive, and they were like, yeah, I'm not saying that they would take this player either in the 1st round. No idea where he's going to go. Malachi Starks' name was brought up that they really like as well. Like, what team is sitting there not liking Malachi Starks? And then I don't even know how to print Mukuba.
Yeah.
Safety. Yeah. Okay. Hey, not bad. Way better than I did on the name that I tried to pronounce yesterday. So I'll give myself a half a point for that one. Also, so like, I just think that's another thing to keep an eye on as well. Like, could the Steelers take a safety earlier than we originally thought? Seems like it's potentially there.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think edge is one of those positions. I think tight end is one of those positions. I think guard and tackle are both, unless they sign a tackle, I think we got to assume they're going to draft one.
Yeah, I actually have one of the questions that I've started here from the YouTube is about that. We'll get to that in a second, though, just because there's just one more thing to bring up news-wise, kind of, that I wanted to before we dive into that. And it's Najee Harris's comments. You know, we obviously heard about what he first said when he got there and like his introductory thing with the Chargers, just in terms of like the facility and how they do things there, and saying it's not like this everywhere else. You know, this gives him the vibes of being back in college. Okay, well, from college to where you're at now, you had exactly one stop prior, so it's pretty clear where he was talking about. And then he was also specifically talking about, in this one pretty openly as well, saying that there was a leadership lack, a void on the Steelers offense in his time here after that first season. Obviously, Ben Roethlisberger was here in 2021, the year that we drafted Najee Harris. But after that, obviously going through a transition period at the quarterback position, which is just like naturally where that leadership typically comes from. They obviously were transitioning from Mitch Trubisky to Kenny Pickett within that period of time. Then last year we saw them go to Russell Wilson. So when you kind of have a revolving door at the most important position, I could see where that would come from. But what do you make of that, those comments? And do they surprise you at all?
They don't surprise me at all. I don't think they should surprise anyone who watched those Steelers. I do think the Steelers really, I think the cap decline in 2021 really hit them at a really bad time because they had to lose a bunch of veterans that they probably would have wanted to keep around. And I feel like when they hit the hard reset there with their offense, you know, you look at the difference between the 2020 offense and the 2022 offense. How many guys are the same? Like, it's almost none. It's Deontay Johnson. Is he the only one? Might be. Yeah, I think so. And so when you talk about like that kind of level of reset, one, if they had had more cap space in the 2021 offseason, they probably wouldn't have gone down that way. Like, they probably would have had Al another year. They got unlucky when David DeCastro retired, right? So that wasn't the intention. It's not like they planned it that way, but it kind of happened. And then to pair that with a coach who had 1 year of coaching in the NFL, his first time NFL coordinator, I feel like was compounded the problem. You had people who didn't know what they were doing, who weren't supposed to know what they were doing, and coaching who didn't know what he was doing. And it was an unfair and bad situation for everyone involved. Like, they really, really screwed up with the offensive direction after Ben Roethlisberger. All of the first steps, starting in 2021, and ironically, starting with the drafting of Najee Harris, were wrong. Like, every single thing they did after re-signing Ben Roethlisberger at the start of the 2021 offseason was wrong. for like 10, 20 moves in a row. Like it just, none of it worked. I guess you could say Pat Freiermuth worked, but I think hindsight would tell you they probably should have drafted an offensive lineman there. As good as that has worked, that specific pick has worked out for the Steelers, and that's literally the only one. Like it's just, yeah. So it was coaching, it was culture, it was bad personnel choices, all at the same time, and I think we're on the other side of a lot of that, and that's why I think like nobody should really freak out about him saying what he said, because now you have a guy who's been there, done that, and Arthur Smith running the offense. You cannot compare what Arthur Smith is doing to what Matt Canada was doing. Just absolutely on a completely different level. Like so much better. You have more veterans on the offense now. You bring in guys like DK Metcalf from another organization. You've been able to keep some guys around to build around. Not many, but now Pat is a 5-year vet, right? So I think they're in a better situation in all of those areas. But yeah, man, 2021, 2022, that was brutal. Like they screwed all of that up. And we all criticize them for it. It doesn't surprise me that Najee is piling on.
Well, you're somebody that obviously covered Najee for his tenure here in Pittsburgh, so you would obviously know better. I guess I'm not surprised if he was going to speak what those comments would be, but just knowing how it certainly seemed like come off to the media, I'm surprised that he was just like open about it, I guess. Like that's the part where I'm not surprised by what he said. I guess I'm surprised by him really saying anything, is what I would say.
Yeah. I didn't was that, and that was with like a team like a sit down with a local news channel, which like I think it had been years since he did his last one of those here. Very strange. Najee was rather combative person to cover, did not really want to do media in Pittsburgh, seemed to find fault in everyone's question, seemed to take offense at everything. So yeah, that's a little curious to me. I don't know, maybe he just hated us. I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm not like he obviously went through it. He would know better than anybody else in terms of the way that things operated. He's certainly entitled to feel how he felt. I'm just surprised that that's what I'm saying. Like in that setting that he really had anything to say. That was what took me by surprise. But
had very little to say to anyone in that setting in Pittsburgh in the last 2 years. I also feel like another misstep the Steelers made in that area that is fair to bring up is that they tried to force a leadership role onto him when I think it's pretty clear that that's not his personality. And it's really ironic because they drafted Najee Harris in 2021, the same year they drafted Pat Freiermuth, one pick apart, and they decided that like Najee Harris was going to be their leader. And if I was going to pick one of those two guys to have decided I was going to make the leader as a rookie, it would have been the other guy. Like they picked the wrong one. Just a number of, like I said, and literally everything they did post Ben was wrong. Everything, like everything.
And hopefully, like you said, we are on the other side of that now. But yeah, interesting stuff there. Let us know in the comments how you feel about Najee's comments. I want to go back to the offensive line talk, though. One of the questions that we got here pertains to it. This comes from Ardon Thorn 5. Said, sorry, late to the discussion, but much like quarterbacks, seemed like offensive line market was pretty weak. Do you think it was more about the players that were available, the market itself, or what are your thoughts there? Real quick, I'll just say I don't feel like too often we see very good offensive linemen available in general. So like finding one in free agency, typically tough to do. Don't see them traded much either. I think that's typically a position that you have to draft and develop. But Alan, what are your thoughts?
So I guess the implication is that the like, why didn't the Steelers sign an offensive lineman? Is that the
okay, I guess. I mean, they didn't specifically say that, but like, yeah, I would think that that's kind of what they're alluding to. Just the market in general for the offensive lineman wasn't there. Do you think it was more about the offensive line talent that was available or the market itself just not being there for whatever reason this summer?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Dan Moore would tell you that the market wasn't there for offensive linemen. He got $82 million. He was the best tackle in free agency. I think that's the answer there, is that it just was not a very good free agent class, and a lot of the guys that were in it signed earlier. And so, yeah. Now, why didn't the Steelers sign one? I mean, I argue they should have signed someone like Mekhi Becton, let Mason McCormick take a redshirt year and get better, and the aim to take over for Isaac in 26. They didn't see that as being worth the money. Not sure I agree, but we'll see. I'm a little surprised they haven't done something at backup tackle, but that's not really, the market doesn't really matter for that. You kind of know what you're going to get there. So, honestly, I haven't looked at like who is available. Should probably do that. Like who the back, like, so you're going to sign a backup tackle. Who's out there? You know what I mean? Like, because I don't know. I haven't really looked at like who is available in terms of backup tackles.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about the Steelers.
Jedrick Wills is still out there. That was DB's guy. Both mine and yours, I think, went, right?
Yeah, Makari went to the Jags. Actually, way more than I was expecting that he would. He did pretty well. I guess that just goes
the
to
offensive line class was good for the linemen that were in it. It just wasn't very deep.
And Tevin Jenkins just signed with the Browns today. I didn't see what the contract details of that were, but yeah, I would say that I don't think Jedrick Wills is going to be back there anyway. But yeah, so another question that we got here, this is from Desert Cactus, and he gave us $5 again. So we obviously got you to this one. Great show, guys. Great players. Those players actually move the needle, simply do not hit free agency. This is kind of what I just said. Under any circumstances, what does cap space actually get you? I've been wrestling with the idea, but I think it gives you the freedom to be on the other side of random trade requests that pop up with real needle movers. The only way to actually get real needle movers is through the draft in these trades. Free agency allows you to play the draft and or trade better by way of more comp picks, and the Steelers free agent strategy makes all the sense in the world as far as I'm concerned. Would love to hear your thoughts on something that I'm missing there.
Yeah, I mean, I said they had so much cap space it was going to be hard to spend it all. And it has been. Like, there are not a lot of good deals to be made out there in free agency. You have to try really hard to find them. I think they made a couple. I love the Metcalf acquisition, even though that's a trade. I liked Slay a lot. I think there's a lot of different ways you can do it. And so I don't know. It's an interesting question because like having the cap space just gives you, I think the biggest thing it gives you is flexibility. It lets you do things that not everyone can do. Like when something happens, somebody requests a trade, somebody gets hurt. So, anytime anything happens in the league, the first thing I do is like, well, who has the cap space to do something about this? And you want to be one of those teams. You allow yourself to be in good situations by having cap space. And I think it's playing pretty well for the Steelers this offseason. I think the Metcalf deal was a good example of that. I think their situation at quarterback, their ability to just stand here and wait on Aaron Rodgers is because they don't desperately need the money for something else. Like they're not holding up anything else they're trying to do, waiting on Aaron Rodgers. Like they'll be fine one way or the other. You can't do that if you don't have the cap space.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And a lot of what you said there kind of is how he felt anyways. Like, yeah, it lets them make that splash trade like DK Metcalf because they obviously had the ability to add money to their roster this season and future seasons with where they're at cap wise. So yeah, good stuff. We appreciate the comment this time, Desert Cactus, but you've been very involved with the comments as of late, so we obviously appreciate that. And you know what, not that this is necessarily related, but I will segue just saying that from one very loyal person in the community, we go to another in Thomas Brocious, one of the big ball knowers on the channel. Underrated aspect of the Malik Harrison signing. Did the Steelers defense have a lack of talent or synchronization? Is this an actual, this has to be a word, obviously it's coming from Thomas Brocious, synchronicity? I've honestly, all right, well, learned a new word today, synchronicity. So that add that to the vocabulary. We now have two new middle linebackers and a new strong safety over 24 and 25 seasons. That is 3 more players with 2 seasons of Steelers experience, yet 5 years experience together, 3 years with Harrison. There's a lot of playing chemistry, even if there is a lack of scheme-specific chemistry. That's a plus in the communication synchronicity department, right? How big of a plus is that, and how do we equate that?
Synchronicity is also a great album by The Police. Just to,
All right,
throw that out there.
All right, Synchronicity.
Yeah. I think he's actually using the term wrong though. But that's okay. I think synchronicity is things that look like they should be related, but actually aren't.
I'll tell you what, I wouldn't be able to tell you. So,
look, I think they didn't play well together as a coverage unit. You can include the linebackers in there, but I don't think Malik Harrison has much to do with coverage. And I don't think there were assignment problems in the run game. So, Malik Harris is replacing Landon Roberts. He's not there for coverage. He's huge. I guess he can cover Patrick Ricard when they play the Ravens, but
we saw him try to cover this version of Cordero Patterson.
They got cooked.
Yeah,
absolutely destroyed. Yeah. You don't want Malik Harrison in coverage a lot. That's not the idea. So I do think they had problems. I just don't think Malik Harrison signing has anything to do with it. I do think letting the secondary coach had something to do with it. That was a move that I think you can point to the lack of cohesion among the coverage units. And I think that the linebackers coach and the secondary coach are not back. To me, that is not a shock because they didn't play like well-coached units last year, especially in coverage. So, yeah, I think they had that problem, but I don't think Harrison has anything to do with it. Now, I think you're going to see Peyton Wilson play more this year than he did last year. I think Harrison will have a smaller piece of the pie than Roberts did. And I think the idea of playing Wilson more would be to try to help with some of those issues because he's really good coverage linebacker.
Yeah.
Especially in zone.
In this next thing is kind of going to play into that communication aspect as well because it's about Minkah. We talked about Minkah quite a bit over the last couple episodes as well. This comes from Christopher Sexton. Said, first off, starts off strong. Love you guys. Love you too, Christopher. Starting off strong here. Got a question. Is Minkah done? Has he played hurt? I feel 2023-2024 season. I know he had to play differently due to defensive injuries on the back end and in the linebacking group. There were a ton. 2024-2025 season, we get solid linebacking play, in my opinion, revamping the room, Queen, Wilson, etc. Trading for Jackson on the back end seemed to overall healthier on defense until the last month with cornerbacks hurt back and forth between Jackson, JPJ. But same Minkah, who called his own self being able to play Minkah ball last season. Now, I guess the one interception compared to 0 in the prior is a little bit of a step up, but not really better. What's the deal? Is it all the new guys on defense, scheme, injury to himself, injury to other guys? I guess what I'm asking differently is, do we think Minkah can get back to being the Minkah that we saw before, or is he just on the decline? A star doesn't seem to go away like this that quickly. What happened?
Yeah, I don't really have a good answer for that. I asked Minkah this very question at the Pro Bowl, and his answer was, we think we've got it figured out, but it was nothing that he wanted to share. So I don't really feel like I know what happened to Minkah. I do think, look, I know some things happened. He got hurt in 23, played hurt. They had every other safety got hurt. They had a mess at linebacker. They had to be really vanilla in coverage. This year, they couldn't communicate. There was a bunch of missed assignments. All those things keep him from making plays. Also feel like the teams just have adjusted to what the Steelers were doing with Minkah and are now just avoiding throwing the ball in the deep third of the field against the Steelers under almost any circumstances. And so I think part of it is nothing happened, but the league adjusted, and I don't think the Steelers have shown the counter punch. Right. I don't think they've shown what they're going to do to teams to punish them for not throwing the ball in the middle of the field. Everybody every Steelers fan freaks out when the Steelers don't throw the ball in the middle of the field. Like every throw in the middle of the field is just a perfect pot of gold with rainbows, fairy dust, angels, choruses, halos. Like there's just you throw if every quarterback only ever threw the ball to the middle of the field, according to Steelers fans, perfect passer rating, 100 yards per attempt. Like that's. Well, if the teams aren't doing that, there should be some other effect. But I don't really feel like we've seen that. I feel like teams have been able to avoid the middle of the field and still move the ball on the Steelers defense. They've got to figure that out, and I don't really feel like they have. I don't see diminished physical skills from Minkah. It's not like it looks slow out there. So, like, I don't think he's washed up. I just think he's in an isolated spot on the field that's pretty easy to see where he's at. The Steelers have done less masking coverage 2 years in a row, and it's made what he does predictable and easy to avoid.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very curious as to what Minkah Fitzpatrick's going to look like this upcoming season. Somebody asked us yesterday about, like, do we think he's going to finish out his contract that he signed here, get an extension, just play it out? Does he even finish it? Like, I really don't even. Yeah, I don't know how to begin to answer that question. But I felt like from a personnel standpoint, they did take a step forward going into last season, and look at how things just completely flamed out at the end of the year. So, like, what's the solution? I don't know. Minkah seems to feel like they got it figured out, and maybe we'll find out when we get to next season. I don't know. I want to get to at least.
I do think the end of the season when Jackson gets hurt, Trice wasn't fully back. They're playing the condensed schedule against that's probably not a good indication of how good that defense could have been. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Joey Porter Jr. was so banged up down the stretch as well. Yeah. So it seemed like everybody was dealing with something, not to the magnitude of the.
And they did get better. Like you said, you felt like they were better personnel wise from 23 to 24. Yeah. I mean, I think they did improve in terms of their overall pass defensive metrics. Not much, but I think they did improve.
Mm-hmm. And if they're getting, unless Slay's going to fall off a cliff from the age of 33 to the age of 34, they'll be improved in that regard. I on paper, they should be better.
Again, I agree.
Going into this year. All right, last one. Let's go back to the draft. Frio J says, what's up? If Ibuka falls to 21, would you draft him, subsequently trade George Pickens for a third-round pick?
I would draft Ibuka at 21, regardless of what's happening with George Pickens, whether they intend to keep him, he wants to go, he wants to stay. The only situation where I don't think the Steelers would be wise to draft Ibuka is if they intend to extend the contract of George Pickens. But I do not believe that to be the case. So, yeah, I'm all on board on Ibuka, and I don't think you have to trade Pickens to make it make sense. So you're drafting a year out, and he's going to be the number 3 receiver, and he's going to be way better than Austin and Wilson at that job. And, oh, by the way, it's exactly what he did in college. And then he can take over as the number 2 outside next year, and that gives Wilson, a lot of leeway run up this year with no pressure on him whatsoever to get his feet wet in the NFL. I'm totally fine with all that. Like, you don't have to sell me on a Minkah Fitzpatrick at all. Also, personality-wise, an absolute unicorn of a wide receiver, one of one in terms of guy you want in your locker room at that position. I think he's going to run well. I need no any other part of the sentence. If the Steelers pick a Minkah Fitzpatrick at 21, it is a good pick almost no matter what else happens.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, I'm kind of the same thought. Like, this question could have ended without the George Pickens for a third part, because I really get the sense, and I don't think that this is going to happen. Like, it's just not something I can see happening before the draft or at the draft. Like, they're going to hold on to George, in my opinion, unless he makes things ugly. So, or
somebody just blows them away with an offer at the draft. But that will happen after Ibuka, I would think.
Yeah. Right. And to me, if that's the case, it's not a third. I wouldn't think.
They'd probably get close to a third-round comp pick for him if he leaves. So it's got to be more than that, unless, like you said, he wants out, which we've gotten no indication one way or the other.
Unless you want to read into him posting a picture or whatever with Tom Brady that people were running with, as if that means he wants to go play for the Raiders or something.
Maybe he wants Tom Brady to be the Steelers quarterback. Why are we reading that into it instead of the other thing? Open quarterback situation. The greatest of all time is out there. Trade the Raiders for Tom Brady. That's what he's arguing for. I don't know why everybody's got this confused.
It's funny. It's funny. I literally posted that as a thing on before this happened, before he posted this picture with Tom Brady. I can't remember what the tweet was, but I didn't even have any text with it. It was just a picture of Tom Brady. as my quote tweet. But all right, good stuff. Appreciate the questions as always from the YouTube community. Keep those coming in the comments. Alan, tell the people to find you.
Hey, Saunders _ PGH on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. PGH Steelers Now is the site's account, SteelersNow.com. Go there and read the words so I can get paid. And sign up for SN Plus if you want to support us financially and read the site without ads, both of which are noble and wonderful goals. And like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications here on the YouTube channel so you don't miss an episode of Morning Rush, Afternoon Drive, all the interviews we got coming out of the Combine still. We still got Senior Bowl stuff I haven't posted. We got owners meetings coming up. That'll be on there. So do that. That's free, and it helps us out a lot. 15,300. And I feel like we've had this number before. I'm trying to come up with a different.
God.
Because I feel like we've had it multiple times because
I feel like it moves during the show.
Lee Flowers is the one that I've got in my head right now.
Oh, so 40. Yeah, so it did move because it was at 40. So now it's at 41. And I used Valentino Blake.
Okay. I think I used Lee Flowers last time too. And then I shouted out Solomon Wilcots because it wasn't. I think like we've done this one before.
Yep, this is definitely. I'm having deja vu because now I'm thinking like, can I just say Robert Spillane? And I probably did that last time.
There you go.
We got to put landing on 41. I think that's.
We want to keep going on. Just keep going. Just keep going by 100 every day.
I can't think of another. Yeah, that's fair. I can't think of another 41 though.
Well, the current one,
personally, Peyton Wilson. Yeah, but. Yeah, so all right, there we go. There's my Rolodex for 41. It's already been utilized in its entirety.
I'm sure there's one from like the 70s, but it's not coming.
Maybe I'll do some research specifically on just the number 41. So because if we're gonna keep landing on it, but yeah, give us 100 new subscribers by tomorrow, and I'll have another one for you. So
there you go.
To do that. Not just a question. You can also drop topics down below. Let us know your thoughts on anything that we talked about, but certainly keep those questions as we work through the off season here. If you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from, be sure to leave a 5-star review. Subscribe over there. Just search Steelers Afternoon Drive. Do the same thing on TikTok, and then find me everywhere, Zachary Smith, PGH. For Alan Saunders and myself, thanks for jumping in. Take another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.